Stacy, welcome again. Thanks for joining me today. I'll kind of do a formal intro here in a second. But for folks joining in from our merchant partner base, thank you for coming and joining us today. We definitely have a great topic, talking with Stacy from Circle Graphics, one of our manufacturing partners, and she's going to give us a behind-the-scenes look at what they're doing to help us get ready for the holiday season as it comes to some of the products that they manufacture for us. Again, this is part of our webinar series, as part of our VIM partner program and holiday series. Next week, we're having a little change in our schedule. We're going to have actually Krista from our product team, and she's our Chief UX Officer, joining us to talk about the Gooten product platform itself and some of the things that she's learned over the years about user interface design and getting ready for the holidays. So we'll have Krista on board next week with us, a little change in the schedule, but hopefully you'll find that session valuable, so please join in. As always, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. California time, 1 p.m. East Coast time. So we'll send out the link to that as well. And as always, the sessions are recorded, so you can share them with colleagues and friends afterwards. We'll send out the link with the passcode to get access to that afterwards. So, all right, so Stacy, let's get started here. So as always, I'm Mark Kapczynski. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Gooten. I love doing these. I always seem to learn new things every single week through our internal executives, as well as our business partners and so on. And so I was really excited to have you on board today, Stacy, to learn more about the manufacturing world and have you share with us a bunch of stuff. So Stacy, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, introduce Circle Graphics, and then we'll kind of dive into some Q&A for the next 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Seward. I am our VP of Sales for our e-commerce team at Circle Graphics. In Circle Graphics, we are a printer and manufacturer. We've been around for about 20 years, and we're really a leader in wall decor products. So we do, actually this year we'll ship between 7 and 8 million of our patented canvas product out of our 2 facilities in the US. And then we also specialize in multiple other wall decor products like posters and frame prints. So really excited to be here, really excited to share more about Circle Graphics and what makes us different as a manufacturer.
Terrific. So the key thing that I thought we'd get started with is you have some very cool looking equipment here. So I can't wait for COVID to pass so I can come visit and check it all out. And it seems like you guys are just 7 to 8 million units. This is just a staggering number. So maybe you could start with, you know, I always think of Schoolhouse Rock when I ask these questions, but like, you know, how does a design from one of our merchant partners that goes through the Gooten OMS, order management system, find its way all the way over to you? And then what happens to it? How does a design become a canvas, basically?
Yeah, great question. So it does start with, you know, your merchants first with their design, then going to the Gooten team, you guys making sure those image files are set up properly, and then transferred to us through our API connection. And then once we receive that order, we are really highly automated. So we take that order from our API, we route it to the correct manufacturing facility based on product and zip code. And then once that comes into our system, it flows automatically and is assigned to a printer. And once that gets to the printer, it's in the queue, and then it's going to be printed, sometimes almost immediately. And then once it's printed, you'll sort of see in this photo, we have a lot of machinery that we have actually created in-house. So we'll print it, and then we'll bring that print roll over to what we call a U-cell, which is part of lean manufacturing. And it's where we're actually building the canvas. And that canvas will be built by usually between 2 and 3 people in that cell. And they will stretch the canvas, they'll build the canvas, and they will ship that product all within that little cell. And that's beneficial for multiple reasons. One is that it really eliminates error because we're doing a single piece flow, meaning that we're only working on one canvas at a time. So there's it lessens the opportunity for error with multiple orders being built at the same time. And then we're also making sure that the quality is where it needs to be before that product is shipped, and everything's done right there in that view cell.
Yeah, I didn't realize, but like, so you actually are printing everything out first in these giant rolls, and then it gets cut up, and then they actually have to stretch it on the frame and so on.
Yeah, so actually this image is a great example of another one of sort of how we use technology. So this is what we call our XY cutter. And those big rolls are brought to one of these XY cutters, and our IT team has actually made a program so that we eliminate waste. So you'll see on that canvas, all the images are aligned to eliminate waste. So all that is done by our IT team as orders come in. So then this machine will automatically cut out all the canvas, and then it is brought to the U cell to be built by our team. And we actually have builders for the canvas that our R&D team have created in-house that construct the canvas. And then here you'll see where we're staging for orders to be shipped out.
That's a lot of canvas.
Yeah, and this is, we had these photos taken a few weeks ago. So in a couple of weeks, there'll be a lot more canvas there ready to be shipped.
Yeah, and this is just one of your facilities too, right? So I mean, you have a lot of.
Yes, this is our Colorado facility that you're seeing. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So how many, so like at peak during the holiday season coming up, how many canvas will you sort of print, stretch, package in a given day?
Yeah, so some of our peak days, we're planning this year between the two facilities to be shipping between 45 and 50,000 canvases a day.
A day, a day. That's a lot of canvas. How? So I'm so curious. So to go from the time you get an image file from Gooten, in a perfect world, right? How long does the process actually take to produce a canvas that's sort of right there, boxed up and ready to be shipped? So the file comes to you. Once it, obviously it gets queued up and so on, but like once it actually goes to production, what's that whole timing usually take? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, so I think there's multiple variables, right? So we work on a standard 3 business day turnaround time, but I think all that is dependent on, where the order is in the queue and how much capacity and volume is coming through the facility. But if we're just looking at how long it takes to build the canvas once it's printed and with the operator, I mean, honestly, a few minutes is what it takes to build the canvas and ship it.
Wow, that's great. This guys are professionals. They're clearly.
They definitely are. Yes.
That's interesting. And so since you brought it up, I just want to ask. So it sounds like you're optimizing around all the usage of material. What happens to the little scraps or the excess pieces? Does that all get recycled, or can you reuse that in some other way, or what happens to that?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the product. If we can recycle it, we definitely will. We are, for being a printer and a manufacturer, we try to be as environmentally conscious as possible. And have actually our other division, which does billboards, sort of spearheaded making billboards recyclable. So we have tried many things to try to be as environmentally friendly as possible. And we even do donate some waste to be used for different things. But at times, some of it is just being, thrown out, just depending on the product and what can be recycled.
Yeah, I think that's certainly one of the value propositions of using print on demand and sort of the on demand manufacturing models is, you're not sitting on, 1,000, canvases that may or may not ever get used, and, all that way. So you've definitely been able to shrink down and limit the sort of overall volume of waste potentially.
Exactly, yeah. And we do a lot of other things throughout our facility to try to be as conscious as possible too. Our Longmont facility, we have composting across the facility where we try to eliminate waste, even in our office space as well. So we've done a lot in the last few years to really try to make as limited a footprint as we can.
Yeah, great. And so one of the natural questions that always comes up to us, and I think I saw one in the chat, is with producing 40 and 50,000 units per day, how do you sort of guarantee or control quality across all of those units and get that quality and consistency mix going for such amazing volumes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of it comes into just our process being very consistent. No matter if we're only doing a few thousand units that day or 30,000 units that day, but we have both technology things in place to help, as well as just the way that we build the canvas. So because of the way we use lean manufacturing and we have those U cells, it really limits the amount of quality issues we're going to have. We also have our technology throughout the facility is set so that we have a barcode associated with every order. So we can track that order throughout the facility at any time. And when that canvas is being built, there's actually a screen and the operator is scanning that barcode and doing a visual inspection right there while they're building the canvas to ensure that what is printed is matching what they're seeing on the screen. So we're doing quality checks throughout the process. And then also, because we know we have that barcode, if there is a quality concern down the line, we can track it back to the printer it was printed on, the operator that built it, and we can coach down to that level, which really helps us keep our quality consistent.
Yeah, I was going to ask, just as part of that, like, what do you end up finding sort of like the biggest issues become? Is it just like operator error or
yeah, I'd say, human error, of course, we try to eliminate it as much as possible, but there's always going to be some,
damn
right?
humans.
I mean, it's just, yeah. I'd say lately, a lot of our damage is coming through shipping, just because all the shipping carriers are seeing so much volume since COVID that has really just accelerated that area of damage.
Yeah, it seems like I know myself getting lots of packages these days. I mean, the boxes are all beat up through shipping and stuff. It's brilliant. I mean, you have such a delicate item that I think it's hard, right, to really make sure. But it looks like, I mean, the packaging is pretty elaborate to make sure you're trying to do the best you can in that mix. So especially with that kind of volume. So one question that did come up, I see it in the chat, is like, while we're going through it and talking about this, is like, how do you handle multiple canvases shipped to a particular household? So like, how do you end up packaging multiple items, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So depending on the size of canvas, we will consolidate those together. So if they're pretty close in size, we'll consolidate. And what we do, and you see it there in the photo, is for most sizes, we are individually packaging, and then we're strapping those products together to ship as a single bundle. So that helps, one, in our facility, it helps keep the production flow moving as quickly as possible, but it also helps with shipper damage as well.
Got it. Cool. All right. So very cool stuff. Why don't we kind of move into the next chapter, which is, what are you doing to get ready for the holidays, and how, maybe you can kind of talk about what you're doing, and then also, how are you engaging with Gooten through that process as well? Because I think you were telling me earlier that you're literally on the phone with someone from Gooten every single day, which which is noble into itself,
So we really prepare for holiday season starting in January. So all year round is really preparation for holiday season, just because it is such a spike in volume and for such a short period of time, right? We see a huge increase of orders between Black Friday and Christmas delivery cutoffs. So in January, we start first by doing a postmortem of the previous holiday season. And we do that internally, both with our sales team, our production teams, but then we also work with our partners. So, I'll talk to Gooten and say, what went well, what should we improve on? What are your plans for this year? What are your growth perspectives, right? What do you see coming this year? And then we keep that conversation going the entire year. We work very heavily off of forecasting. So we are constantly forecasting because that is what allows us to have the correct inventory, have the correct amount of printers. I mean, this year we had to add additional printers and make sure we have the right amount of employees on hand so that we can handle the capacity. So for us, it really comes down to forecasting and planning, because most of the plan for Q4 and holiday season, a lot of it needs to be done by early June. I mean, if we're going to be ordering new printers or adding space, working with our partners to bring in more labor, all of that planning needs to be done by early summer, right? So that we're in the place we need to be by September, October.
So sort of with that said, we're kind of second week into November. How are you guys feeling about the holiday season? How do you feel in terms of kind of that forecasting and planning? Any concerns there, or is it kind of coming in at the level you expected? What's your current assessment?
Yeah, I think we're feeling good, but I'd say this year has been challenging. COVID sort of upended everyone's year, right? I mean, I guess that's an understatement, but it had a couple effects, especially with us in manufacturing. One being that we sort of had a holiday season in May and June because we saw a huge spike in e-commerce volume. And that was, a holiday season that we hadn't necessarily planned for. And then the second piece was really just making sure we could have the right amount of employees on hand and keep them safe. So we made a lot of changes to our facility in April and May because of COVID that will stay with us, right, for a long time. But I mean, we do temperature checks before our employees come in the office. We, of course, are wearing masks. We are social distancing as much as we can on the factory floor. So we've had to spread out machines, spread out how we're doing things. We have people separated into different shifts so that people aren't interacting, and really separated within the facility as well. So most of our office staff is still working from home, but the ones that are there are sort of separated from production staff so that if something does happen, we know who has interacted with each other. So I think a lot of those things are what have been different this year from previous holiday seasons. But I feel like since we've been doing it now for, almost 10 months, we're starting to get the hang of it, right? And we have planned, we're going to bring in hundreds of temp labor, and we've already started bringing them in for both of our two facilities for this holiday season. So we've already started bringing in new staff and training them. And really over the next 2 weeks, we'll bring in that staff to be ready for that huge push that we normally see on Black Friday.
Got it. And how do you handle just the managing of the inventory, I guess, side of it, or the at Gooten we always call it the blanks, the underlying canvas and stuff have you already had to stock all of that and you just have a massive stockpile of canvas now?
Yeah, we do. We have a great supply chain team. And yeah, we have pretty much an extra warehouse full of canvas and just think of all the boxes you need, right, to ship everything. And yeah, so it really is something.
And everything.
Yeah. It's something we work on year round, and that's why forecasting is so important too. And that's why we work with Gooten. I know the Gooten team gets sick of me talking about forecasting, but we work on it all the time because it is so essential for everything that we do.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll say good news is the message has gotten to us all. And so even like on the marketing team and everyone, we all like know, like as we've been helping our merchants get ready for the holidays, you know, obviously a few weeks or months ago, it was letting everyone know forecast, 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 so that, you know, we can better prepare, which means better share that data with you guys so that you guys can then prepare to help us and be ready. So that's so key.
Oh yeah, it's so important.
And then I guess a couple other things just, you know, around kind of the holidays. And what other, do you do any extra communication, or like, is there extra things that you have to do to help make sure that this runs smoothly? That's, you know, call it a little bit more, I mean, again, this year's a little weird to say out of the norm, but you know, like, you know, is there some form of extra communication, or like, is there like, you know, like I know at Gooten, we had Nadia from our team last week on, and she was explaining that the operations and manufacturing team here at Gooten has a daily stand-up every day to review all the manufacturers, all the procedures, and, you know, identifies any issues. Is there extra communication that you guys are doing either internally or with us as part of this holiday prep?
Yeah, definitely both. So internally, we have already started doing sort of our peak season communication, and that includes extra reports that we're getting every day, both morning and evening, from our production team on staffing levels, inventory, orders, sort of how they're doing throughout the day. So we've already started that internally. And then also with our partners, I mean, obviously I talk to Nadia all the time, but we'll make sure that we have, you know, 2 meetings a week scheduled so that we can check in, you know, early in the week, late in the week, and just keep the communication really close. We try to be as transparent and proactive with communication as we can be. So we really, and we do that internally, but we also want to do that with Gooten too, and let you guys know, here's how we're feeling. Here's what we're seeing from a production standpoint. Here's what we're seeing as far as volume and capacity. And then here's how we're feeling with shipping carriers too, because that is one of our primary concerns this year, is just overall capacity with the carriers and how they're handling the volume as well.
Yeah, it was funny. I was going to bring that up and ask you about the shippers, and like, sort of, what do you worry most about the shippers and sort of their ability to service you at this time of year? You know, like, are there extra things you've had to do with them to get ready and so on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say forecasting probably 100,000 times in this call, but they
I gotta
also
ask you.
asked.
I just gotta ask you. Do you think forecasting is important?
So our carriers also ask for forecasts from us, right? So that they can plan on how many orders per day, per week they're going to be picking up from our docks. So that's really important. I'd say, just like with everyone, they're seeing, I want to say UPS was saying that they're seeing the volume of shipments that they didn't anticipate until 2030 just happened overnight because of COVID.
Wow.
And I don't see that changing. I think the way that we're buying is going to stay this way, even after maybe a vaccine or things get a little more back to normal. I just see e-commerce continuing to stay at this level. And I'm actually sort of shocked that it took this to get here. But so I think they're just trying to handle the volume as best they can. And they know it's going to be the most packages they've ever had to deliver for a holiday season. So I think they're really just trying to set expectations just like everyone else. But in part of that is that they're not guaranteeing their delivery days, right? So if you order something next day air, it's not guaranteed it's going to be there next day air. So some of those things we could have relied on before, we maybe can't. So we have worked. And the one thing we did do is we set our shipping cutoff dates. So the date that you need to order and order a canvas by in time for it to be delivered for Christmas based on the service level. We built in a little buffer there, and we were pretty conservative just to ensure that, you know, people aren't missing their holiday deliveries.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, it's bad when FedEx is running national TV spots to buy and ship early, on what is it, American Ninja Warrior or something, right? So they're really worried about it if they're having to do that. So
I know it's funny. We've been trying to push holiday shopping to early November for years, and this year we're like, please make it happen, right? Like, let's get people ordering this week rather than Black Friday.
Yeah, well, I think you saw it with even like Amazon Prime Day and Walmart and Target. I mean, even the big guys, the big e-commerce players, all pushed up all their big promotions into October, right? So that's crazy. So just one other question, and we'll move on to other topics that I just seen, was also just around how do you handle like a delay or a bottleneck, or a printer goes down, and it has to be taken out of the line to be serviced or fixed or something. How do you sort of plan for that, and how do you deal with sort of the unexpected things that naturally may come up?
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest things we have to our advantage is that we can load balance between our two facilities in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So we can shift orders if need be. So say, we see North Carolina being slightly slower in production, we can shift orders to our Colorado facility, and that really does help us. And that helps us throughout the year for like weather issues or anything that might disrupt production. I'd also say we just have an incredible team, both for fixing the printers. Even like HP will come and ask our team questions about printers because our team knows so much about them. So we're pretty good at, if something goes down, we can get it back and running pretty quickly. But I'd say that also comes down to us just staying in really close communication with Gooten. If something happens, we want to come to you first and let you know, hey, this happened. This is what we're doing to fix it. We might get, slightly behind, but here's our plan to catch up. And that's really how we manage it, is just to stay in close communication and be transparent about what's going on. Because the things will happen, right? I mean, the way 2020's gone, who knows what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So, we've talked a lot about the holiday season, and so we'll kind of talk about what's coming next then. So hopefully we'll all survive the holiday season well. We all have our forecasts done and in, and we've prepared accordingly for things. So basically, why don't we talk about what comes next and so on. And maybe I'll start with this kind of question about like, how do you guys look to, sort of the future and into next year about what products to carry, what additional capabilities that you should have, what advances you should make on the technology side, both in either hardware or software or the printers and things like that? How do you look at, into the future and start thinking about that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I'd say almost all of those things you just mentioned are driven by our partners like Gooten. So if there is high demand for a new product, as well as if it fits into our wheelhouse. So we have really stuck to products that we can produce well. So we haven't expanded, a lot of people have wanted us to expand into textiles, which is a completely different print process than what we do today. And we've really just stuck to what we're good at and what we have expertise in. So I think that's really how we decide on new products. We're always open to evaluating products based on our R&D team. But for the most part, we've really stuck to what we do well and what fits into our current really capabilities. I'd say for what we're looking to do and what I think the future will be, I think we're just going to continue to need to speed up both manufacturing time as well as time to customer. So any way that we can shorten transit time. And for us, that's getting it to a factory that's closer to the end customer, right? So now we can split the country in half, but maybe next year we can have multiple, even more places to ship out of, and maybe even other countries, right? So I think it's being able to get the product produced faster, but still with the consistent quality and the right price, but then get it to the customer faster.
Yeah, that seems like that's just going to be the perennial big challenge for everyone to figure out. Is it seems like as the overall ecosystem shift to more of this manufactured on demand type of model across certainly home decor, wall art, all the way to fashion and apparel and so on. That's just what consumers seem like they're demanding. It's now incumbent upon all of us in the supply chain to figure out how do we, sort of get that Amazon level delivery, 2-day delivery thing worked out where, like you said, order comes in, custom design, get it printed, get it boxed up, and get it, shipped out right away. That's incumbent on all of us to figure out how do we work together to solve that challenge, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, question for you, like, I don't know if you observe any of this or not, but are you observing any particular kind of trends in terms of what people are printing or wanting sort of as the output on, say, Canvas and so on? Like, is it all just personalized items, or is it, unique designs? I'm always kind of curious to see, like, like you see such an amazing volume. Love to, if you have any sense for what are some of the trends you might be seeing on the output side.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been with Circle Graphics for about 5 years now, and I really have seen it change since I first started. When I first started, it was a lot of just family photos and professional photography, and then maybe just very classic art. And now it really is more this personalization and customized product, as well as very pet heavy, which me being a dog owner, I love. But yeah, a lot of pet products, pet portraits, those types of things. But I think we've really seen it become more of almost a trendy type of switch, where you're seeing these trends come in and be so incredibly popular. And they are really based on really unique artwork or takes on artwork. Yeah. So very different from just I'm going to take a photo on my iPhone of my kid and print it on a canvas. I mean, we still see that, don't get me wrong, but I think it's really become a lot more creative in the last few years.
Yeah, it definitely seems like, I know one of the things Brian, our CEO, talks about is, like, the trend he's observed, especially with COVID, is, where in the years past, you could buy someone a personalized experience, like, hey, here's a cool dinner to go to, or, a museum package, or some kind of physical world experience. And it seems like, especially for this year with COVID, like, that's shifted to now it's like, I want a personalized piece of artwork of some sort. Whether it's for your pet or your family, or interesting, just creative new designs. People are looking for new things, and they're not able to go shopping physically as much as they used to. So it's this is a great model of find some interesting either design element and have it manufactured exactly how you want it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I do feel like it's almost become sort of a way to communicate too with friends and family that you're not seeing. And we always were a big gifting season. But I feel like now it's all the time. People are sending each other cute little things, inspirational quotes on Canvas, or, signs that say something, or, I feel like there's a lot more of people just being like, hey, I need to send this person something. I need to, since I can't be in front of them and I can't see them, let's send them a little gift.
And it almost seems too, like, I think because of the, like, maybe the manufacturing's gotten so good, obviously, thank you very much. And I think, overall the price points have come down so much that it's like, I remember you used to order something that was super expensive to get it printed out. It's, it was like $100 for these things. It's like, oh man, I'm not gonna, like, maybe I'll do one, every once in a while, every few years or something. But now it's so cost efficient that it's like, I can get something, and every, few months get something new.
Totally agree. And I think that's one reason we saw a big spike right when COVID hit, But overall, business is still up pretty dramatically over prior years. And I think that is why, is even as there may be issues with the economy or, people might not be making huge purchases, they're still willing to go and buy products that are in our price range.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely, change with the seasons and stuff like that. So,
well, and people are home more. I mean, that's something we saw immediately, is people being like, oh, I'm going to work from home. I need to put something on the wall, right? I need to make my home office look a little better, or I just want to change. I'm sitting around looking at these walls.
Hey, Stacy, don't call me out here. I feel like that was a personal dig. I do have my Pats and Red Sox, very important stuff laid out. So
I know, I'm going to send you a canvas after this, Mark.
Please, just not of the Denver Broncos, please. Can't do it. All right, just a couple last questions. They're kind of a little bit related. I've seen some in the chat, and I was going to ask you about it. But can you just talk a little bit more, kind of going a little back to the beginning on, how do you it's all about quality of the image and the output. Maybe you can just talk about kind of what are your maybe high level requirements that you sort of pass on to Gooten that we share with our merchants, and kind of what are the things that you're doing, and how do we set folks up for success to have the highest quality output at the end of the day, beginning from, hey, I got a design or a photo, I got to get it into Gooten and then get it over to Circle Graphics. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So we have specific requirements based on the product and size that we're sharing with Gooten. We have a knowledge base that Gooten has access to that has all that information. We're sharing, the recommended DPI for each product, the color platform that we require, the image file type, all of that is shared so that you guys can pass us the file exactly as we're going to print it. Because really the only way we can ship the amount that we do is by knowing that those files are correct and sending them directly to a printer. So there's no human touch when it comes to the image files.
Yeah, there's no extra review and approval.
Exactly. So then most of the quality control after that comes down to our quality team, who is making sure that our printers are all calibrated to print exactly the same. No matter which facility they're coming out of, the print will look exactly the same. And that is done, I want to say they do checks on a daily basis, and they actually do calibrate the machines on a weekly basis if they aren't seeing any issues between those checks, to ensure that you're getting the same print quality no matter which printer it comes off of or which facility it comes out of. And then once it's printed, then we have both a quality team that does out-of-box inspections. So they'll actually take boxes that are ready to be shipped, open them up and check them to make sure they look correct, and then they'll rebox them and ship them. And then we also have our operators doing quality checks throughout the process of building the canvas.
Got it. Interesting. And just maybe this is a silly question, so this will show my naivete about the manufacturing process, but are the printers that you use, are they inkjet printers, or are they what's the actual tech that actually layers the image on? And I guess maybe two-part question, is your goal to try to get to a photographic image quality, or should we not expect that? How do you see sort of the ultimate quality output that you think you should be able to achieve?
Yeah, so yes, they are inkjet printers, and we have a couple different platforms that we use. And I would say our end goal is to print the image that you sent us, right? So I guess that would be, to a photographic level, right? Yeah. But that's our goal, is to print what you guys sent us. And really to do it consistently, so that if you send us a file, in January, and then you want a repeat of that in December, you're going to get the exact same print.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely is amazing all the infrastructure that you have. And so I know I've been looking at the chats coming through, and I think people are just blown away by the images. So I'll say this: keep sending cool images over of your processes and machinery at work, and your team hard at work, because I think people love it. So I just want these printed out now on my wall. It looks pretty cool. So I'll do that as my new backdrop for you, Stacy.
Yeah, I'd like that. That'd be good.
Cool. So before we kind of, I think I have one more picture of one of your other machines that I had up here. Maybe before we wrap up, quick question: what else haven't I brought up that I should ask you about on the manufacturing side? Is there something that we might have missed that you think is important for our merchants to know? Is there anything else that we should cover on that front?
No, I think we covered. Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job of covering holiday prep, sort of what makes us different, the future. So I think we did a good job.
Okay. Then maybe we'll kind of plan to wrap up here, and I'll give you the final floor to say what's the last piece of advice that you want to get out to our merchants right now as they're entering the kind of heart of the holiday season and so on. Any last words of advice that they should be doing?
Well, I would say,
because they've already forecasted, so you can't.
Right, yeah. So forecast, I can't mention that again, but I would say just try to start getting your holiday orders in now, right? As much as possible would be my recommendation. And I know that's hard. I know every year we try to push the consumer to buy early, but I think any way we can do that this year, I think will just help. Both with manufacturing, but also just with our shipping carriers as well. But yeah, other than that, I just say I think we're in a good place. I mean, we're excited. We really do work all year for these next few weeks.
Wow.
So we're prepped and we're ready.
Excellent. Terrific. Well, Stacy, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you guys have plenty of work to do and so on, so I appreciate you making the time to join us today. As always, thanks for everyone for tuning in today. And after the session, we will send out a link to the webinar and so on. So if you want to watch it again or share it with your colleagues, you can see the URL at the bottom of the screen, Gooten.com/Gooten Holiday Webinars. You can register for our webinar for next week. That looks like we're going to have Krista, who's our Chief Experience Officer, talking about, I know some of you had questions around how to manipulate images to get the highest quality and so on. So we'll save some of those questions for next week with Krista as well to help support the process. And other than that, I'll say thank you again for everyone to join in, and let's all thank Stacy for sharing her knowledge and wisdom with us, and really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll all have a great holiday season. So thank you very much for joining in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Stacy.